You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show. Welcome to the Concerted Commandos radio show with J.D. Manier and Sharon Angle. Welcome again. This is the deplorables and voters for Trump and just anyone interested in the Concerted Commando radio show. We welcome all. And good to talk with you too, Sharon.
Thank you, JD. It's always great to be on the radio with you. 2 Fridays in a row, 2 fabulous Fridays in a row. And we've got a great lineup. And, of course, we're going to have Anna Little on today as well. She's going to be talking to us from the protests. And we're going to have a little bit about that on our show today.
I know it should be tremendous. Someone said earlier today it was the March for Death last week, and now you got the Women's March for Life. And I really think it's so true. But, yeah, let's jump right in and talk about our lineup today. We have a great group and led by Bill Cummings at 335. He's the CEO and president of Pathfinder Insurance Training and Publishing. And we always love having his wit and his sage advice to us, especially on the Obamacare replacement. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the first week under Donald Trump. And Bill is at 335. And you've got a great guest at 405, Sharon. Talk about that.
Yes, I do. We have John LaBoutillier. I hope I'm saying that right, and I'm sure he'll correct me if I'm not. John LaBoutillier is a former U.S. congressman and a nationally recognized political commentator. He has been a prolific writer and has contributed to many major newspapers and magazines. And in 1980, LaBoutillier was elected to represent New York's 6th District, becoming the youngest member of the 97th Congress. He's also been a frequent commentator, host, and guest on many media programs. And today he's going to be talking to us about an article that he wrote and also a show that he does. And the topic is, has a Trump counter-revolution now begun? And that's pretty interesting, his take on what caused the counter-revolution and how far this is going to go. Will we see it stop during this presidency? And, of course, I have many questions about how this will affect the presidency. Can this kind of counter-revolution stuff paralyze him in any way? I'm hoping that the answer is no, but we'll get that answer at 4:05.
You know, and then at 4:35, we have returning guest Melissa Quinn. She's a senior news reporter for the Daily Signal with the Heritage Foundation, and she has been compiling a lot of information on the critical replacement of Obamacare. And she's got 4 top GOP plans she's going to give us some information on, as well as one of the plans that is fizzling out that didn't make the top 4. But with that said, Sharon, I think our guest this time is going to be the regular co-host today with you, Anna Little.
Welcome, Anna.
Hi, guys.
It's so great to have you on, Anna, and you're coming to us live from Washington, D.C. Tell us why you're there.
Well, I've been having a wonderful time. I've been up early this morning and down at the National Mall at the starting point of the March for Life. I got there pretty early, and the crowd was impressive even as I arrived. There are so many people here. I have to tell you, I am so impacted. I am so encouraged. People love babies. They were chanting, "We love babies, how about you?" Or, "We love babies, yes we do. We love babies, how about you?" Oh, made me smile. And it just seems that they're so peaceful and so respectful. There wasn't a stitch of garbage or anything on the ground. And then once we got through security, which was elevated because we had some special guests speaking at the March for Life rally, once we got through security, we could get pretty close to the stage, and I was able to see the one and only Kellyanne Conway on the stage. She reiterated President Donald Trump's commitment to the life issue and defunding Planned Parenthood. She reminded everyone that Monday of this week, he actually reinstated the Mexico City proposal, and they are actually working on other pro-life initiatives right now. After we spoke or listened to Kellyanne Conway, we were told by Deanie Mancini, the president of the March for Life organization, that we'd be meeting with or listening to Karen Pence, who is the second lady in the United States, the wife of the vice president. So Karen came on stage, and then Mike snuck in behind her. So we didn't realize we were getting to see the vice president until after Karen already began to address us. So that was cute. And then Karen did finish up her speech by introducing Mike, and then Mike spoke to us. And it was just such an underscoring of the fact that we have a White House which is solidly pro-life and looking forward to working with us. So many of us are in disbelief. We're still adjusting to the change because we've constantly been in fighting mode because of the Obama presidency, which was a stark contrast to what we have in the White House today. And so after we heard from Mike and Karen Pence, we then heard from Cardinal Dolan, who opened a blessing, and then after we listened to him, Chris Smith from my state of New Jersey, the dean of the pro-life delegation to Congress, came on the stage, and there were so many pro-life Congress people who stood there with him. They filled the stage. We listened to Chris Smith, who told us that they are working right now on H.R. 7, which has passed the House, to make the Hyde Amendment permanent. And that's exciting news because that means that funding will not go to abortion permanently. And we listened to Nia Love. If you haven't heard her speak, you need to listen to her speak. She is a representative who is the very first African-American female Republican to ever win an election for Congress. And she was really emotional and well-motivated when she spoke to the crowd today. And I think she's a wonderful example. And what she says is, don't be for what might have been. Be for what is yet to be. And that's when you're speaking about the unborn child. Believe in what's yet to be. Believe in the potential. And don't make your decision according to what might have been. Don't leave your child in that category of what might have been. And she talked about what the future of each child who is aborted, what they could contribute to society, and how we're actually hurting ourselves by allowing this kind of activity. So it was a really uplifting launch to the march. The rally was tremendous. And then the streets were filled all around the area. Everyone that attended could not get into the rally. So they were just lining up in the streets surrounding the area. I don't know that there were, within a 2-block radius in either direction, whether there were any streets you could easily cross because the people were so densely packed in. And then, of course, as we began the march, it just went on. So I'll tell you, I'm very encouraged. I'm hearing a lot of commitment to the pro-life message and to accomplishing pro-life legislation, which had been passed and put on the president's desk in the past and then vetoed, and that now will move through quickly because there are bipartisan support for these bills. So it's exciting. It's very, very exciting.
That is exciting, Anna. I'm calling in today from Stanford Children's Hospital, and of course this pro-life topic is so dear to my heart. As you know, I have a grandson. We've talked about him before on the show. He's now a little over 3 months old. It's been over 100 days in the neonatal ICU unit because his esophagus and his stomach are not connected. And we're here at Stanford now getting that connection done. Hopefully next week, Thursday, is a projected surgery day for that, which is a red letter day for all of us. As you remember, my story is that this little baby was diagnosed in the womb, and my daughter was told to abort now. That's the only solution. And so whenever we hear this kind of termination or abortion is the right solution, I know it just makes me, my whole body just gets on edge. And I know that being there today, seeing all those others that are willing to fight for life, give babies a chance, give God a chance, give miracles a chance, give the human race a chance. It just seems like the whole chance for all of us. So I'm so glad that you're there and participating in that march. Tell us a little more about the crowd that you're standing in and how the attitude is there today?
Well, the attitude is peaceful. It is loving. It is respectful. We were waiting quite a long time to get through security, which is not usual. The march does not usually have these security checkpoints, but because of Kellyanne Conway and Mike Pence in attendance, these checkpoints were put in. So many people arrived with backpacks and selfie sticks and prohibited items because they were not aware of the change, which only occurred, I think, midday yesterday. So what could have been a free-for-all and quite an unpleasant experience was really very loving and helpful and respectful. The crowd is just, they're beautiful, loving people. The culture of life is really indicative of an uplifting and of a servant-type mentality, one to the other. So these lines where we're packed in like sardines, you can't see. If you're 4'11.5" like I am, you definitely don't see a thing. And you're waiting for hours to get through the security checkpoint. And, people are singing and chanting, and, some of the elderly folks are having trouble staying on their feet, and people are letting them sit on their signs, or one woman couldn't get from point A to point B because there was a retaining wall near the Washington Monument, and we were jumping down from a higher level to a lower level, but it was too much for her. Some young people saw that she was hesitant. They came over and lended their backs and their shoulders to her just to get her from point A to point B, because there really was a lengthy walk around to get to the security checkpoint. So this is the loving environment where I've spent my day today. And while it's chilly, and I'll tell you, if you're out there for a prolonged period of time, you feel it, I can't have anything but joy in my heart. And here we're talking about how we love babies, how we love women, how we don't want to see women harmed anymore, and that we're marching for women and for their babies and to support them as a society in motherhood, which is really a beautiful gift. It's a beautiful gift. There is no greater love than the love that exists, that bond of love that exists between a mother and a child. And to allow evil to destroy that bond through the sin of abortion, we just can't allow it as a God-loving society. We just can't. And I'm just so uplifted by the experience of being here. And I'll tell you, it's challenging conditions, but I feel joy. And there we are. And I don't think I'm alone. I think the crowd is experiencing the same.
Anna, JD, through the crowd, people have to be excited about the Planned Parenthood defunding getting ready to happen up there on Capitol Hill with the GOP.
That's right. We did hear a renewed commitment for defunding of Planned Parenthood. Every speaker today, from Kellyanne Conway to Karen Pence to Mike Pence to Congressman Chris Smith, Mia Love, Joni Ernst, they all referenced their personal commitment and the commitment of the Republican delegation to defund Planned Parenthood. And the intention is to keep it defunded and to fund instead the federally qualified health care centers. In other words, take the money away from the killing and devote the funding to women's health care where it belongs. And the belief is that if we accomplish that quickly, we will have the evidence generated necessary to prove that what we've done is actually better for women than what they've been experiencing for 43, almost 44 years. I guess it is 44 years now. So that's the discussion on the defunding. And remember, the defunding means taking taxpayer dollars away. And Planned Parenthood is not in need of subsidies. It's already a profitable business. So we don't need to be subsidizing profitable businesses to begin with. But we certainly can't have tax dollars going towards the destruction of life and the injury to women, both psychologically, emotionally, but also physically. And the data is just huge. The percentage of Planned Parenthood locations, just Planned Parenthood alone as an abortion center locations throughout the country, where there has been injury to women, in fatalities to women, neglectful health department type standards not being met, neglect in that department, and also then the abuse and the fraud against women, with regard to the effect of these abortions and the denial of choice. They advertise that they do mammograms. They don't have a single mammogram machine. They can't do it. They haven't bought the equipment. Cecile Richards talks about prenatal care at Planned Parenthood. And there's been this, again, another expose by pro-life organizations just randomly calling Planned Parenthood, asking for prenatal care, and the reaction on the other end of the phone by the Planned Parenthood worker is to laugh and scoff. We don't do prenatal. We only do abortion. It's clear what's going on in these facilities and the fraud against the U.S. people and the injury to women and the fact that they're killing centers. That's their focus. And then go back to Margaret Sanger and the reason for founding these in the first place and the disproportionate number of minority women who are exposed to this abuse and minority babies who in genocidal fashion are exterminated. I thought we would have learned from the Holocaust, never again. This is our Holocaust. And I got to tell you, I am so encouraged by the people that showed up today with such brotherly love, sisterly love. They love women. They love babies. They want to support women in crisis, mothers in crisis. They want these babies to be born. We'll help with adoption. There are just so many nonprofit organizations represented, then the churches, many denominations. It's amazing. And I'm sure we only have a fraction showing up today of what's truly available across the nation. So, and they do work internationally as well. It's so uplifting. I can't contain the emotion I feel today.
Well, Anna, I'm glad that you were there last week, too, to see the protest. So I want you to contrast what you're seeing today with what you saw last week. And there were a lot of women in that crowd, as we all know that was supposed to be the Women's March of protest. So talk about the contrast between the two, since you've been in Washington, D.C. for both demonstrations.
Okay, so the Women's March wasn't really about women. It was about the leftist agenda. It was an anti-Trump march. There was a complete mixed message coming out of that. But what came to me from that march was the vulgarity in the language, the vulgarity in the behavior, the signs. I mean, if there's really no other way to describe what went on down here last weekend. And frankly, that is the element in our society that we need to address, because it's that base mentality and means of expression that results in violence and destruction of property, because there is no respect for one individual to another. And the messaging is all over the place. I mean, you're calling it a women's march, and yet they're marching with signs that say keep fossils in the ground, no fossil fuel. What does that have to do with elevating women? You know, I mean, I understand women are interested in all political issues, don't get me wrong, but a women's march should be about women, and it's misnamed. So once again, it's the lying that goes on in the extreme liberal left. I mean, there are Democrats who are pro-life. They're here today. So it's not the political issue. It's how do you want to treat women? Do you want them to be vulgar, walking vaginas that are focused on their sexual parts and living in a less than acceptable social way with many partners or whatever they want to describe? I mean, that's what I saw exhibited last Saturday. And what I'm seeing here today is a respect and elevation of the woman to a level where she is valuable. She is deserving of love and support. Her ability to give birth empowers her and therefore gives her an elevated level of respect in society from this crowd. And from the crowd last Saturday, she's an object, and she's supposed to be enabled to continue to be that object, and it's just vulgar and unacceptable to me. I wouldn't have wanted to bring a child down here last Saturday. I would have no problem at all bringing children to the march today.
Anna, JD again. You know, the previous Congress had the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act. Do you think that this might get revived? It was a case where after 20 weeks, these babies definitely feel pain. Comment on
Yes. There are a number of bills that are working their way through the House and then will work their way through the Senate to get to the President's desk. I believe the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act is among those. I believe also the heartbeat. That's the one where if you detect a heartbeat, which I believe is very early in the pregnancy, I want to say within 2 weeks, but I'm not sure of that statistic, but it's very early in the pregnancy where a heartbeat can be detected either with a stethoscope or with a vaginal ultrasound. And once that heartbeat is detected, life is present. Now, you and I believe that life is present from the moment of conception, and that the baby in the womb is a separate person and is a human being, has personhood from the moment of conception in the womb. And if they're in a test tube, which we don't recommend at the moment of fertilization, because they are already human, they have personhood, and then they therefore have rights under our Constitution and certainly rights under God. So we all believe that. But the heartbeat bill is the closest we can come with science to, well, I mean, other than what I just described, which science does back up, it's the closest we can come to determining what we call viability. Once a heartbeat is discovered in a child, science can intervene, and the viability of that child increases exponentially. And it's a very high percentage of children where heartbeats are detected who can survive with the intervention of science to viability. And so instead of looking at the end of the pregnancy and whether that child is viable or not at the time the issue with the child is being discussed, we can actually go from the heartbeat and protect the majority of babies who are at risk right now. Because very often the heartbeat is detectable around the same time the mother realizes she's pregnant. So it really almost solves the problem. So that heartbeat bill and the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act are both being discussed and will likely be passing through the House and the Senate rather quickly, as they have come close, if not done so before. And obviously there's a change since this election. We're in a different world completely this year as to last at the March for Life, because the majority of the American people, through our election process and through the Electoral College, which has been in existence for a very long time, we've chosen a president who is unabashedly pro-life. And we have chosen a vice president who is unabashedly pro-life. And the majority of the American people do believe that. So here we are in a completely different world this year at the March for Life.
And that's all good news, Anna. And we've been so happy to have you on as our guest today, but we're right up against a hard break. And so we're going to have to let you go. But thank you so much for your report from the Pro-Life March. That was our guest and co-host, Anna Little, and we're so grateful. Thank you for coming on the show today with us here at Conservative Commandos Radio, Anna Little.
My pleasure. God bless and take care.
Thank you. We are coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7. All of those are .coms. We'll be right back after this short break with JD and our very first guest, Chuck Pettibon.
That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow Patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime. studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
If your health care has become a burden and you're worried about being stuck for another year, you have options. Liberty Health Share could be the solution to your problem. Open enrollment is here and could be your chance to free yourself from insurance. Take this opportunity and join Liberty Health Share. You can finally be in control and have freedom when it comes to your health care. Liberty Health Share offers an entirely open network, which means you choose your doctors and you choose your hospitals. Liberty Health Share offers freedom from insurance, meaning no tax-related penalties. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty Health Share today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237. Or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org. That's libertyhealthshare.org.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos radio network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
And
This is J.D. Manier and Sharon Angle. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com, CCRShow.com, or at 8 a.m., log on to LeadingEdgeRadioNetwork.com, or 11 p.m., log on to HighPlainsTalkRadio.com. And you can listen to Concerted Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. Our next guest, Bill Cummings, is owner and president of Pathfinder Insurance Training and Publishing, the leading insurance training school in the Midwest. Pathfinder has assisted hundreds of thousands of new insurance agents in obtaining their life and health, property and casualty, and security licenses for over 40 years. And welcome back to Concerted Commandos radio show, Bill.
Thanks, J.D. Great to be here in Sharon. Super to be with you.
Exactly 1 week ago today, Donald Trump became the 45th president of the United States. And he's accomplished quite a bit in 7 days. Summarize for our listeners just what he's done so far in these last 7 days.
J.D., it's been a kaleidoscope of things that this guy has done. But let me start out by my impression of listening to the inauguration presentation. It was just amazingly different. Normally they're rah-rah, kumbaya, everything is great, let's get together and party. And this guy sounded like a business meeting. Things are broken, a lot needs to be done, let's get to it. And it was just an amazing speech, and people just looked at it and going, my golly, things are really, really different. And wrote down about 25 things that have happened this week, and if he's gotten more done in 1 week than Obama got done in 8 years. It's just spectacular. And I wish we had about 3 hours to talk about all the stuff that's happened in 171 and a half hours. But I think that what is quite unique is that about 45% of the U.S. population has been forgotten by governments and by politicians and by D.C., and it was totally the focus of his inauguration presentation was the people in this country that have been forgotten. And there was an argument about whose crowd was bigger, was it Obama's crowd or whatever, but I think quite unique is there are about 30 million viewers. An awful lot more people viewed the TV presentation than Obama by 50%. Donald also talked to the CIA to get that group back on track, and I think they have been way off track for years and years and years. Slow in getting all of his cabinet nominees approved, but that's understandable. But the people he has picked are just fantastic, amazing. So much so that on Monday, Mad Dog Mathis is bombing ISIS and kicking butt and making things happen. And that could have taken, 2 years to figure out, and he took him about 2 days, which is quite amazing. And then Donald grabbed his pen and started with executive orders. And his first one is something we'll talk about the next segment, which is gutting PPACA, and basically said, don't enforce any of those laws, and we'll talk more about that later. Brought up immigration right on top, is we've got to do something to protect our society from the crazies that want to kill us. Also knock sanctuary cities, about defunding those. That's New York and Chicago, L.A. and San Francisco. Another hotly debated item came right up to the surface, which was the Keystone Pipeline, and that's been a political football for 8 or 10 years. And a lot of people think that really is about preserving land and environmental issues. I think it's more importantly about who owns what railroads, and that's going to be put out of business by a pipeline. We've already talked about federal funding on abortion. That became an issue. All this stuff in 1 week. Drain the swamp and the hiring freeze in D.C., the fight with Mexico over NAFTA, and as a sideline, I think the president of Mexico was incorrect in deciding to not come to see Donald. The president of Mexico may not have gotten what he wanted, and he may have had his arm twisted to pay for the wall. But I think that Donald would have respected the president a lot more if he'd come to D.C. and at least showed up and made a case for the relationship between Mexico and the U.S.
Bill, I want to throw something in real quick. I heard earlier today, El Chapo, yeah, the narco guy, he has $16 billion in assets they can trade. Some of that money would help build the wall, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would have built, about 17 walls, and that kind of makes Fidel Castro look like a piker, doesn't it, J.D.?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
keep it up.
$16 billion. And didn't they export him to Brooklyn or something to stand trial?
Yes. I would say let's tag some of those assets as a way to repay all the damage he's done to society. And let's have at it. I'm glad he's going to be back up in New York.
And as I recall, he had some kind of an underground cave in one of his houses that was full of gold and money. And so maybe there's where you find the bucks to build the wall. Certainly an awful lot of it is U.S. money. So that would be a great idea. Also, I would
we got just about 2 more minutes before we come up on a hard break, but keep it up. I mean, you're right. It's been dizzying, the pace, but that's Donald Trump. He keeps working.
Yep. And as you know, J.D., I'm really big into the stock market. I've been watching that for years and years. Grew up on Wall Street with my dad as a broker. And I was on the wrong side of the market on Monday, the night of the beginning of the election. And I thought that Hillary would win. I thought the stock market would go down, and was investing accordingly. And I was absolutely wrong. Trump won, and the market rallied. And the market is 75% psychological and 25% economics. And there was no real economic reason why the stock market responded, but psychologically, the market was just excited about Trump winning. It started down, and then it reversed and went the other way, and that's a good thing. And Trump met with the automotive folks, GM, Ford, Chrysler, met with the union leaders, which I thought was quite interesting, and showed to the world that he was going to take a positive mood toward business. And clearly, you'd better be making your cars here in this country, and you'd better make your air conditioners in this country, and that's going to bring some interesting stuff from Apple and all those guys that are manufacturing a lot of stuff in Asia.
Bill, I got to break in on you. We're coming up against this hard break. Hey, can you stay with us for just a couple minutes, and we'll get right back talking about this. I'm
here.
And this is J.D. Manier and not Anna Little. It's J.D. Manier and Sharon Angle coming to you live from the Concerted Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos Radio Show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
This is Pastor Christina Lamanier, chaplain for the INRA.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Manier. We help co-host on the Conservative Commandos radio show, and we want to sincerely thank our listeners who turned out to vote in mass to elect Donald Trump, Governor Mike Pence, and conservative congressional candidates across our nation.
Against incredible odds, you helped create the strongest GOP team to take the reins of power in Washington since the 1920s. General George Patton said, "It's the unconquerable soul of man, not the nature of the weapon he uses, that ensures victory." We salute all of you for taking a stand for truth, freedom, and defending our constitutional form of government. Let us continue to pray for our nation and for God's blessings. May God save the United States of America.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
And this is J.D. Manier along with Sharon Angle. If you'd like to hear rebroadcast of today's show, just check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. Or at 8 a.m., log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. And in the evening, 11 p.m., log on to highplainstalkradio.com. And you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. We're talking with Bill Cummings. And Sharon, I think you have some questions for him.
I do, J.D., and thank you, Bill, so much for being a guest here on Conservative Commandos radio show. I want to talk to you about Obamacare. We are hearing all this noise about repeal and replace, but I guess we're all a little bit skeptical when it comes to replacing. We don't want Obamacare light. Give us a few, just an overview of what you think repeal and replace means, and if repeal is really where we should go and forget about replace, just throw it back to the states. Tell us, Bill, where are you coming from on that?
Well, absolutely have to repeal and replace Obamacare. It was a law that was designed to fail, and if you take the conspiracy theory, which I kind of do a little bit, is it was designed to fail, and when it failed, then the federal government, i.e. Obama and Hillary, could point to the insurance companies and say, hey, I told you those people would screw this up, and because they won't fund it and they're a bunch of crooks and criminals, we're just going to nationalize health care. So if you analyzed it from when it was originally designed by Jonathan Gruber, you knew anything about actuarial science, you knew it was going to fail. So we have to get rid of it, and I think where Trump started out to basically say to the regulatory authorities, just do not enforce any of these provisions, is the beginning of the end of Obamacare. And the press is lying through their teeth about what the real impact was. There's something like 40 or 50 million Americans that are uninsured, and Obamacare was supposed to fix all that. In reality, it only solved about half of that problem, and 2/3 of the 20 million people that were supposedly insured under Obamacare really were not. They were insured by Medicaid. They were entitled to Medicaid before Obamacare ever came on the block, and when Obamacare goes away, those 2/3 of the people are still going to be covered by Medicaid, and that's not going to change. So essentially what you do, Sharon, is you get rid of Obamacare, and if you look at the programs that are bouncing around Washington, they are not really policies or plans, they are goals. And their goals are to shift responsibility to individuals more so than groups, to provide coverage across state lines, to provide more flexibility, to get individuals more involved in the cost of health care. And the third-party payor system, where the employer is paying for your health care, is a blessing and a curse. A blessing in the sense that the individual is not responsible, but a curse because the individual really doesn't care how much health care is. I had cancer surgery, prostate cancer surgery 6 months ago, and I spent months researching what I should do about it. But ultimately, when I selected my doctor in the process, nobody ever talked about cost. And to this day, I really don't know how much anybody's paying for the surgery, and that just is not going to work. You've got to have a program where the individual who is incurring the bill really knows how much a hospital is charging. And if you go around town looking for prices, go to McDonald's, you see the price up on the wall. Go to a hospital, go to a doctor, and ask how much something is. And their answer is, well, do you have insurance? And if so, which insurance company are you with? And is it an HMO or a PPO plan? And on and on and on. I.e., nobody knows what the price is until you know what company it is, what insurance company, et cetera. So that all has to change. And I have created a very simple plan called the Universal Health Care Plan, which basically is a cash value health insurance policy, fairly much like cash value life insurance, kind of like the universal life insurance policy. It's a policy you can buy at any age, whether you're 16 years old, 16 months, or 35 years old, or whatever. It's good for life through age 100. You can accumulate cash value in it. Your employer could contribute to it. You can contribute to it. All the money is pre-tax, and the money grows in there, and you can buy whatever you need. If you're 25 years old, you could probably buy a catastrophic health plan for $69 a month, and you could afford it. When you get married, you could upgrade it to major medical. In time, this plan could replace Medicare and replace Social Security and replace SSDI. So it would take about 50 years for that to happen, but that idea is very simple and can do a tremendous amount to get the federal government out of the insurance business.
Well, and I think that's the main goal, and I guess that's why you and I are both saying repeal. And when you talk about policy treatments, you're right. These are just policy treatments, but what we really need to do is just repeal it and then take down some of the impediments that we see to people being able to go out on that free market and purchase the insurance plans that they need. And you described those really well to us. So I don't know about this replacement thing. That just makes me go, this crazy. Why does the government have to be involved in something that's such a personal decision? Do you see any place for government here? I see repeal it at the federal level and then go right to the states and say, make this easy on yourselves, get out of the insurance business, get out of the mandating insurance business, and let people make choices. Tell us how you feel about that.
Absolutely. I am dead set against the federal government being involved in any kind of insurance program, whether it be health care or flood or whatever. It all just creates massive confusion. So you basically repeal Obamacare and you say to the industry, not necessarily to the states, but you say to the industry, start creating free market plans. All those plans were there before Obamacare ever came along. There were a lot of serious problems in healthcare, mostly due to pricing and the third-party payor system that drove the pricing crazy, and regulations, and having to do all kinds of tests that are a waste of time. The governments don't have to be involved in this at all. basically what you do is let free enterprise go back to where we were. And then you make the individual taxation equal to the employer taxation, which is the money to pay for the premiums is pre-tax, and the money you save in health savings accounts is tax deferred or basically tax free, and get out of the way and let the insurance companies design products, and they'll fix it in a hurry. Just going back to where we were. And if you have an individual plan such as I'm talking about that covers you for life, that has portability, and you can take it across state lines, and it can be anything you want it to be. And ultimately, for people that are, say, under 25, 30 now, it'll ultimately replace Social Security, and people can save their own money and keep the federal government out of the Social Security business. They owe something like $4 or $5 trillion to retirees, and there's not a nickel in any of those accounts. So ultimately, Social Security is going to fail, Medicare is going to fail. The whole thing's going to come crashing down when somebody's honest about the fact that there's no funding in any of these programs. It's all going to be a gigantic collapse unless somebody does something in a hurry.
Hey, Bill, JD again. The left, though, is claiming that all these people are going to lose their insurance under a new Trump plan. Comment on that. We just have about another minute or two, but comment on that, because that's what's bannered around by all the major media.
Well, about 14 million of the 20 million that are covered under Obama is just Medicaid, and nothing's going to change there. So what we're really talking is about 6 or 8 million people that were individuals that were uninsured, and some of them need to be in a pool that are high risk, and we have high risk pools. Some of them will be going to Medicaid. Some of them go into state pools, and some of them will buy individual policies, and these new individual policies will be a lot less because Obamacare dictated pretty much a Cadillac major medical plan with 10 essential coverages. For example, I have to buy, as a 76-year-old male, I have to buy maternity benefits, which is ridiculous. And that drove the cost up a lot. So you allow people to buy what is appropriate to them. A 25-year-old male just needs a catastrophic program at $60-70 a month, not something that costs $500 a month. It's 10 times more coverage than he needs.
Hey, Bill, you're coming up on that hard break. We are again. But how can our listeners get more of your writings, get in contact with you? Can you leave a website and contact information?
Sure. Contact information's on our website, which is Pathfinder EDU, all one word, PATHFINDER.edu.com. And my email address is bill@pathfinderedu.com. And my telephone number is 317-407-6801.
Thanks for coming on the Concerted Commandos radio show again, Bill. Thank you so much, and God bless.
Thanks, JD. Thanks, Susan. Talk to you guys soon.
And this is JD and Sharon Angle coming to you live from the Concerted Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7.
I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions.
We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
If your health care has become a burden and you're worried about being stuck for another year, you have options. Liberty Health Share could be the solution to your problem. Open enrollment is here and could be your chance to free yourself from insurance. Take this opportunity and join Liberty Health Share. You can finally be in control and have freedom when it comes to your health care. Liberty Health Share offers an entirely open network, which means you choose your doctors and you choose your hospitals. Liberty Health Share offers freedom from insurance, meaning no tax-related penalties. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty Health Share today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237. Or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org. That's libertyhealthshare.org.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos radio network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
You are listening to Conservative Commando's radio show with J.D. Munir and yours truly, Sharon Angle. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. Or at 8 a.m., you can log on to Leading Edge Radio Network, or 11 p.m., you can log on to highplainsdailynews.com. And now you can listen to Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. And, J.D., it's my honor and pleasure to introduce our next guest, John LaBaudelaire, who is a former U.S. congressman and nationally recognized political commentator. John LaBaudelaire has been a prolific writer and has contributed to many major newspapers and magazines. In 1980, he was elected to represent New York's 6th District, becoming the youngest member of the 97th Congress. He also has been a frequent commentator and host and guest on many media programs. John, welcome to Conservative Commando's radio show.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored.
Well, it's our pleasure. And, of course, we want to talk to you about your latest podcast and something that you've written, Has the Trump counter-revolution now begun? And in your podcast, you were talking about this counter-revolution. Tell us a little bit about what that is, and then we'll go from there.
Well, first of all, we have to look at the revolution itself, which has been going on in America for a while. Actually elected President Obama in 2008 because so many Americans were so unhappy with the direction of the country by then. And they took the most outside-the-box candidate running that year, an African-American from Chicago who was not part of the political establishment. They chose him, and over 8 years, he did not get the job done for those voters. So by 2015 and 2016, revolution started up all over again looking for the most outside-the-box candidate running, and that was Donald Trump. And they've elected him, and his job is to change things and be the vessel for this revolution until it makes the lives of those American voters happy. And the same revolution happened with Brexit in England, is happening on mainland Europe, on the main continent. Throughout the government in Italy, has Angela Merkel in trouble in Germany, et cetera, et cetera. Then Trump gets to be president, and the very second day, the first full day of his presidency, last Saturday, we have these massive women's marches in America and around the world. Millions of women, mostly, some men supporting them, coming out against Trump. And what Arlene Bynum and I did on that podcast called Revolution _ the podcast was to wonder if Trump's hot rhetoric and strong personality have spawned a counter-revolution very much the way Obama and his actions spawned the Tea Party revolution of 2010, which is still running now, 7 years later. And we don't know that yet, but we know that there's a lot of potent power out there against Trump that we saw in the streets last Saturday.
I think you have made a pretty good point on your podcast, too, that there were some things that Trump could have done to mitigate the counter-revolution that you're calling this, but he kind of missed the cue or missed the opportunity. Talk a little bit about what you thought Trump should have done, just even in his inaugural address.
Well, even before the inaugural address, during the transition, he made virtually no effort to reach out to the 50% of the country that voted against him. And he could have done it without in any way betraying his voters. The tradition would be the winning candidate, the president-elect, calls up the losing candidate, in this case Hillary Clinton, and invites her for a face-to-face meeting to talk to each other about the campaign and the future. And this meeting always happens, except this year it didn't happen. Should have happened. The photo op that would have gone along with it would have gone a long way towards making the Hillary anti-Trump voter feel a little bit better about Trump, that he's trying to make peace with all of us instead of demonizing half the country. Well, he didn't do it. Then in the inaugural, he thanked Presidents Clinton, Carter, Bush, and Obama for being there. Never mentioned Secretary Clinton sitting right behind him. He could have said, and to my opponent, Secretary Clinton, I want to commend her on a lifetime of devoted public service. You know, something, just one line like that goes a long way towards calming people down. Now, at the lunch up in the Capitol Rotunda after the inaugural address, the Clintons were there, and it was put on TV, and he did say that about Hillary, about how honored he was to have the both Clintons there. And it got a standing ovation. And I think that's what he should have done in the inaugural address. He should have said that to the whole country who were watching. It would have helped him. Instead, he apparently likes being a polarizing figure. And we now know from the first poll of his first 5 days in office, 36% of Americans approve of the job he's doing and 44% disapprove. And that's really not very good. He should be having a honeymoon. He should be at 60, 65%. Yet he doesn't seem to care.
Well, he's no Reagan, as you point out, but
he's no conservative either.
How this will ultimately play out for Donald Trump.
I'm sorry, I was interrupting you.
I guess I'm wondering, do you think this is the beginning of a movement that will eventually take Trump down?
Well, that I don't know. I can't say that. And we don't want that. I want Trump to adjust himself to be a conservative, because I think what works, and we don't have enough of it, is conservative governance on tax policy, spending policy. That stuff works, and the Republican Party nominated this man, but he was never a conservative. He's never been a Republican. And he's a populist, and he's actually a big spending liberal Democrat in that sense. And last night on Sean Hannity asked him, what about balancing the budget? And I'm paraphrasing, but basically President Trump said, well, balancing the budget's good, but there are times when you need to prime the pump and spend money. And that's why he wants to do this $1 trillion infrastructure rebuilding program. And a conservative Republican Congress, I can tell you, is not going to spend that money. We don't have the money. And $1 trillion more in debt, I don't see it. And it worries me that this guy ran talking about balancing the budget, has now completely flip-flopped that, and instead wants to spend more money.
There's just an element of cronyism here, too, with even his picks that is startling, even the base. I always hate it, and I know you as a politician, you get this, too, having run for office, that when you shake your base, you really have shaken the groundswell that got you into office, and you need to be right in their corner rather than sending out messages that make them concerned about your efforts. Talk a little bit about that piece. I guess that's where we're now all talking about, is he a one-term president because of, he isn't having this honeymoon that you're talking about.
Yeah, well, I think cynically, if I look at it, what's happened here is that Trump hijacked the Republican Party and used it to get himself nominated and run for president, very much the way Mike Bloomberg couldn't get nominated in New York City when he ran for mayor as a Democrat. So he bought the Republican Party nomination back in 2001. And once he got on the ballot, he didn't campaign as or govern as a Republican. In fact, he then left the Republican Party for a while, became an independent. But when he ran for re-election, he got the Republican nomination again. And Trump is very much like Bloomberg in that sense, that they look at these political parties as vessels that they can use to get them where they want to go. But they don't play party politics. They don't care about principles. They just want to do what's good by their way of thinking. And I think most conservative people, if they're honest about it, they don't like certain things that have already been going on during the transition and during the first week. For instance, we don't believe in high tariffs and border taxes. That is not the way we Republicans want to govern. We believe in free trade. And you start a trade war by slapping tariffs on people, and it's going to take our economy down. That's number one. Number two, the notion of Trump telling businesses, individual businesses, how to run themselves, telling a whole industry how to run itself, telling big pharma you got to make the drugs here and everybody got to make everything here. His high-end suits that he sells, the Trump business suits, are made in, I believe, Hong Kong. I mean, this guy does not practice what he preaches, has never believed in the things he says, frankly. Today, as we do this radio show's it's the anniversary of Roe v. Wade, and the big pro-life march is going on today. And Donald Trump, for his entire career until he decided to run for president, was pro-choice on abortion. And he just flipped himself to the other side, and all these people who say they care about the issue believe it, which I just find amazing. This guy flip-flops on every issue.
You have identified the thing that I call shaking your base. But we have to go to a short break. Can you stay with us through the break? I know J.D. Manier wants to ask you some questions as well.
Okay, sure. Happy to.
Thank you so much, John LeBoudelaire. We're coming to you live from Philadelphia from our flagship station, WNJC 1360, and around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting Talk, stream live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7. Those are all.com. We'll be right back after these messages with Sharon Engel, J.D. Manier, and our special guest, John LeBoudelaire.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos radio network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the Internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty HealthShare as a sponsor. Liberty HealthShare is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty HealthShare exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty HealthShare. Liberty HealthShare is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty Health Share. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty Health Share today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. Or at 8 a.m., log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. Or at 11 p.m. in the evening, log on to highplainstalkradio.com. And you can listen to Concerted Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. We're with John LaBoutelet, and welcome back to the Concerted Commando radio show, John.
Thank you.
I got to first point out, a great fan of yours. Back in 1982, I bought your book, Harvard Hates America. I had Bill Buckley's God Man at Yale, and that inspired me, among other great readings, to get involved and start a concerted campus newspaper at Northwestern University, going back a number of years ago. But hats off to you and your effort. Have friends here in Indiana. They were at the inauguration, and one sweet gal, a friend of my wife, she sang, patriotic singer, when Trump would come to Indiana, which was numerous times, she would sing the national anthem before those great rallies and other patriotic songs. Well, on the first day after the inauguration, she was accosted by a lesbian lady who came up and forcibly kissed her, grabbed her, and started swearing at her. On the second day, trash was thrown on her, and another activist came up and stole her hat. And it was very rough in D.C., so talk more about, this counter-revolution. It's kind of Trotsky-like to me. What's your comment?
Well, I hate to hear stuff like that in the United States, and coupled with Madonna's horrible comments about what she would do to the White House and dropping F-bombs all over the place. Sounds like quite a few instances of very coarse behavior. But, the stuff Trump said about women during the campaign and the Access Hollywood tape is extremely coarse also. And I, just as a Republican, I hate to see the coarsening of our politics, and especially between men and women. I don't like it. I think it's wrong. And, who knows? Look, the Quinnipiac poll that came out yesterday, taken for the first 5 days of his presidency, shows he's got a 36% approval rating and a 44% disapproval rating. And really that 36% are all Republicans. That everybody else is extremely down on Trump. And I'm amazed that you'd start a presidency off under 40% popularity. Even George W. Bush was up around 60% when he began, even though he lost the popular vote and had an extremely difficult recount. He made efforts to reach out to the other side and got somewhere and started out fairly popular. Trump is like he tries not to be popular. It's amazing. In a sport where, in politics, where getting people to like you is crucial, he seems to revel in having many people not like him.
Yeah, but to the tune of 5,000 counties versus Hillary's 500.
That's anti-Hillary. I mean, that's as much anti-Hillary as it was pro-Trump. I look at that and I say, are you kidding me? Struggling to beat Hillary Clinton, the worst candidate, under federal investigation by the FBI, and you can barely beat her? We should have beaten her by 10 points.
want to talk about, you're a great historian too, John, but the efforts to delegitimize Trump leading up to the inauguration. I mean, it's unprecedented as I looked at it.
No, it's very precedented.
You had
very
with Russia hacking, the Electoral College attack, and Congress wouldn't even acknowledge him. So many of those folks didn't even show up to the inauguration. That was pretty unique. Would you say so?
Well, definitely the boycotting the inauguration was terrible, and it began the week before on Meet the Press when John Lewis, a congressman from Georgia, said he was going to boycott it because he didn't think Trump was a legitimate president. And that is not unprecedented. That goes back to 2011 when then a private citizen, Donald Trump, tried to delegitimize Barack Obama by leading the birther movement and claiming that, quote, I have a team of crack investigators in Honolulu right now coming up with dynamite information, and I'll be releasing it soon, unquote. Well, it's 5 years later. It's never been released. There never was a team. There never was any investigation. It was all what they now call fake news. And it came out of the mouth of Donald Trump. And it was aimed at delegitimizing Barack Obama in 2011 because Trump was thinking of running for president in 2012. And here we are 5 years later, and this is pure payback by the Democrats, especially African-American Democrats, who are defending their favorite president for many reasons, Barack Obama. And it makes perfect sense that this is what's happened. So this trying to delegitimize the choice of the American people is a tragedy on both sides.
Well, I got to agree with you there. Now, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, friend of the Conservative Commando's radio show, he did have forensic experts look at the birth certificate, and he did issue a number of statements. But now we'll move on. James Clapper,
and also
John
forget
Brennan.
it. It's a waste of time. Move on.
Yeah.
And Joe Arpaio needs to worry about going to jail now. The last thing he needs to think about is the birther movement.
How about James Clapper, John Brennan? Now, they've not given us the straight facts about North Korea, Iran capabilities, and talk a little bit about the intel. Because I really love listening to your blog this week. But talk a little bit about this intel and the politicization of the intelligence community.
Well, I don't think it's anything new, and I think it's sad that this has gone on quite a long time. I mean, I remember when Nixon went into office in '69. He didn't say things publicly, but in private, he hated the CIA and distrusted them and basically felt they were incompetent. They just weren't very good at what they were supposed to do. On this thing, though, I think it is a lingering issue that could hurt Trump severely in due time, whether his campaign in any way received help from Putin in 2016. If there's any smidgen of truth to it, Trump's in a lot of trouble. Now, I don't know if there is any truth to it, but clearly the intelligence community has announced they're investigating it. The Senate Intelligence Committee is investigating it. Now the House Intelligence Committee has announced this week they're going to investigate it. We've never had that before with a president's own political party in charge of both houses of Congress looking at the possibility
I hate to break in, but we're up against a hard break. How can our listeners get more of your writings, and can you give us some information, contact information, and blog website?
Yeah, go to johnlaboute.com. It's very simple. JOHNLEBOUT. johnlaboute.com. And everything's up there, what I write about, and my podcast that we were talking about, Revolution_the podcast. The link is right there, and you can go to it and listen to it.
Well, thank you for coming on Conservative Commando's radio show, and God bless. Thank you again.
Thanks for having me. All right. Bye-bye.
And this is JD and Sharon coming to you live from Conservative Commando's Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7.
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions.
We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
If your health care has become a burden and you're worried about being stuck for another year, you have options. Liberty Health Share could be the solution to your problem. Open enrollment is here and could be your chance to free yourself from insurance. Take this opportunity and join Liberty Health Share. You can finally be in control and have freedom when it comes to your health care. Liberty Health Share offers an entirely open network, which means you choose your doctors and you choose your hospitals. Liberty Health Share offers freedom from insurance, meaning no tax-related penalties. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty Health Share today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237. Or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org. That's libertyhealthshare.org.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos radio network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
If you'd like to hear rebroadcasts of today's show, check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. Or at 8 a.m., log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. In the evening, log on to at 11 p.m. to highplains.talkradio.com. And now you can listen to Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. Our next guest, Melissa Quinn, is a senior news reporter for the Daily Signal with the Heritage Foundation. And today we're going to focus on the health care issue. Welcome back to Conservative Commandos radio show, Melissa.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Please tell us about the Patient Freedom Act bill. Now, that was talked about on Fox News this morning, and, it's going to allow states to keep Obamacare. Where do you see that going?
Well, it's interesting. This was a proposal that was revealed by Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana and Senator Susan Collins of Maine, and it actually just got 3 more Republican senators on board, including Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina. This is an interesting bill in that it basically gives states that are happy with Obamacare. We're talking about states like California and New York. If they are happy with the Affordable Care Act and the coverage that it's provided to residents of those states, then those states can actually opt to keep Obamacare in place. But the law also provides a sort of escape hatch for states that do not like Obamacare to implement their own health version of a healthcare law or make changes to the healthcare systems in those states. This was a proposal that certainly raised a lot of eyebrows, I think, just from different Republicans that I've spoken with and have heard from. Obviously, Republicans since at least 2012 have been campaigning on getting rid of the Affordable Care Act. So for those conservative members, they really don't feel like the Cassidy-Collins bill, the Patient Freedom Act, as it's formally called, is actually following through on that campaign promise.
Yeah, Scripture says a house divided cannot stand, and Lincoln said that. But who would, if this would pass, who would be picking up the tab for New York and California?
It would actually be the taxpayers. This would allow the federal funding that is, allocated through the Affordable Care Act. The states that decide to keep Obamacare would continue to receive the federal funding, while the states that choose not to keep Obamacare would still receive federal funding, but it would come in the form of the money that was allocated for the subsidies. And I think it's interesting. It's a really great question about where the money would come from. And this is something that Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky, he held a conference call with reporters on Wednesday and was asked about the Cassidy-Collins bill. And one of the things that he said was that really, in his opinion, the design of the legislation was flawed because you're basically asking the people who live in states that don't like Obamacare, that choose not to keep Obamacare, to pay for the system that they dislike for the states that decide to keep Obamacare. And really what he said is you're asking states like Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, those states are going to have to pay for Obamacare for the California and New York.
What's the timing, Melissa, now, do you think, with the GOP-controlled Congress for replacing Obamacare? Where would you put that on the timeline now?
I think that is a really, really interesting question, and it's certainly something that Republicans don't yet seem to be, or to have come to some sort of consensus on. Republicans, both the House and the Senate, gathered in Philadelphia this week for a joint retreat, and one of the things that they did say was that they would vote to repeal Obamacare by March or April. That was a timeline that was laid out by Speaker Paul Ryan. Mitch McConnell was alongside him when Speaker Ryan outlined that to reporters. And most interestingly, I thought, was that he actually said that that was the timeline that he took to the White House to President Donald Trump, and it was a timeline that President Trump seemed to be on board with. Now, in terms of a replacement, that's where things get a little bit more murky. We've heard from Republicans that they want to include aspects of a replacement in the bill that would repeal Obamacare, so we could see aspects of a replacement being passed by Congress by that March or April deadline that timeline that Speaker Ryan mapped out. But conservatives ideally would like to see, though, an implementation of repeal take place right before the next Congress is sworn in, and they hope to see Republicans come to some sort of a consensus on a replacement plan in that time. But right now, they don't really seem to have come to an agreement on when we will see the law actually replaced, beyond a few key provisions.
You've written recently this week about the top 4 GOP plans, as you see them. Takes a little bit of time. Now we've got about 3 minutes before our next break, but start us off and talk about those 4 plans.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just one really important thing to note when we're talking about Republican replacement plans, and I'll just do some of the highlights of some of them in a moment, but we hear so much from Democrats saying that Republicans don't have a replacement plan. And yes, while it's true that there is not one plan that the whole entire Republican conference has come behind yet, Republicans have really since 2010 put forth a number of replacement plans. One of those is Congressman Tom Price, the Republican from Georgia. He has introduced his bill, which is called the Empowering Patients First Act, every single year since 2010. So that bill would provide for age-adjusted, refundable tax credits. It would make changes to the rules regarding health savings account, increase the amount of money that individuals and families can contribute to their HSAs. It would require insurers to provide coverage to people who have pre-existing conditions, if those consumers have had coverage for at least 18 months. And it would also create high-risk pools, or allow states to create high-risk pools. And one thing that we heard a lot of from President Trump when he was on the campaign trail, Congressman Price's plan would also allow consumers to purchase plans across state lines. And his replacement plan, there are a lot of aspects of it that a number of other replacement plans mimic. For example, Speaker Paul Ryan and the Republican conference, they came out with their plan called A Better Way for Health Care. I believe that was in the summer of 2016. Like Congressman Price's, it provides age-adjusted refundable tax credits, increases the amount of money people can contribute to their health savings accounts. It requires insurers to provide coverage to people with pre-existing conditions and creates high-risk pools. It allows consumers to purchase insurance across state lines, allows dependents to stay on their parent's plan until they're 26 years old, and it also calls for Medicaid reform. And in that sense, they haven't really come to a consensus on how they would like to reform Medicaid, but they're giving states the option to choose from either a per capita allotment or a block grant. And block granting Medicaid.
Well, listen, we need to have you hold that thought. We're coming up against a hard break, and we'll bring you right back. This is J.D. Manier and Sharon Engel coming to you live from the Concerted Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7.
They say I'm crazy, I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos Radio Show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty HealthShare as a sponsor. Liberty HealthShare is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty HealthShare exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty HealthShare. Liberty HealthShare is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty HealthShare. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty HealthShare today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
You are listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. And if you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. At 8 a.m., you can log on to Leading Edge Radio Network, or at 11 p.m., log on to highplainsdailynews.com. And now you can listen to Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. This is Sharon Engel and J.D. Minier, and we've been talking with Melissa Quinn from the Heritage Foundation about Obamacare. And Melissa, I was so happy to hear you talk about the many, many plans that there are that Republicans have been talking about since the time that Obamacare came into existence. We've all been talking about there's a better way, and this isn't it. And I am really interested in this whole idea that this repeal and replace is going around Washington rather than just repealing, because we all know it's going to eventually get bounced back into the states anyway. I know as much as the federal government is supposed to help pay for this, it really goes away after a while, and it becomes totally on the states. So I don't get this idea that if you like Obamacare, you can keep Obamacare. It seems like a mandate to me. We have to repeal it. So talk to us a little bit about why are we talking about replacing it, or even this Collins-Cassidy amendment?
Well, in terms of the Cassidy-Collins bill, even though it was introduced earlier this week, there certainly seems to be a little bit of skepticism from conservative members of the House and the Senate, as well as some GOP committee chairmen. I was speaking with someone yesterday who was attending a session on health care at the GOP's joint retreat, and they said that there really was some pushback on the Cassidy-Collins bill from the GOP committee chairman, which is significant because those are the people who would be moving the bill forward. Additionally, I had the opportunity to speak with Congressman Jim Jordan and Congressman Mark Meadows yesterday, and both of them also said that the issue for both of them with the Cassidy-Collins bill is that, Republicans have talked for so long about repealing Obamacare. And if they were to go ahead and move forward with the Cassidy-Collins legislation or allowing states that like Obamacare to keep Obamacare, they're really not making good on that campaign promise, on the promise that they've made so many times to the voters. But you are correct that what we likely will see in the next few months is Republicans, or in the next few weeks actually, is Republicans try to work through and come up with a replacement plan, likely one that has aspects of the many replacement plans that we've seen. The Daily Signal, we just took a look at 4, but there are others out there. And right now what they're talking about doing is moving a replacement on a parallel track to Obamacare repeal.
Well, I know so many of us, we get a little nervous when they talk about replacement because we don't really think that government belongs in healthcare decisions at any level, not at the federal level, not at the state level. I know our state has over 23 required mandates on insurance, so you can't just get a policy that covers you. You have to cover everybody else's problems as well. How does this work? When we're talking about getting government out of the healthcare business if we're going to be replacing it?
Well, one of the things that Republicans really, and particularly conservatives, are very, very adamant on is that when we're talking about repealing Obamacare, they are adamant that they have to repeal the mandates. And that includes the individual and the employer mandates, the parts of Obamacare that require a business or an individual to purchase insurance, but they also are saying that one of the key things that has to be repealed, and this would certainly kick back the responsibility, the insurance decisions to the individuals, is they're calling for a repeal of what's called the essential health benefits mandate. And what that was a list of 10 essential benefits that the federal government required every single insurance plan to cover. We're talking about things like maternity care and dental, things of that nature. Now, the issue with the essential health benefits mandate, as we've seen over the last few years, is that it's caused the price of premiums to increase. And like you just mentioned, it also causes people to purchase insurance plans and policies that include things that they may not need. For example, I was speaking with a woman from Nebraska today who is 60 years old, and she couldn't understand why at 60 years old she needed to pay for a plan that included maternity care. So one of the things that Republicans are and conservatives are pushing for is a repeal of that essential health benefits mandate, which would then give the power back to the consumers to purchase the plans that have the provisions and the benefits that they need and that they want.
Now, the problem, of course, is that every state has its own mandates. They have a peculiar set of mandates that are in addition to or were there, and Obamacare made their 10 mandates in addition to the ones that are in the state. So we really need to have that competition across state lines so that people don't have to buy into all those mandates if they don't want them. That seems like the impediment to me. I know the Heritage Foundation has come up with their own, so to speak, recommendations as well. What does the Heritage Foundation recommend? Because I know that President Trump really thinks highly of you, as do most of us in the conservative world, and we do look to you for some really good research and recommendations.
Well, I can't speak specifically to the policy recommendations that the health policy experts at Heritage make, because I'm not a health policy expert. I just am a reporter with the Daily Signal. But one of the things that a number of conservatives, including health policy experts at Heritage, really are pushing is that they need to pass the control from the federal government, which is the system we currently have under the Affordable Care Act, make sure that we're giving control back to the states, whether that is states deciding to implement their own high-risk pools, the way that states will choose to reform their Medicaid systems, but also the way states can really use what are called innovation waivers, which are currently in place in the Affordable Care Act, to really usher in and come up with their own innovative designs for their own healthcare systems. So one of the things that the health policy expert at Heritage are really big on is making sure that we have a system that is not controlled by the federal government, not necessarily a one-size-fits-all, but one where the power is given back to the states.
Melissa, JD again. Regardless of which GOP plan comes out and is adopted, don't you see there's going to be great cost savings for the taxpayers and for we the people who go to get insurance?
Well, that certainly is something that Republicans have said time and time again that they want to see. I believe there are some numbers out there from the Congressional Budget Office and other estimates from different groups. Republican members of Congress have said that repealing the law would equate to a lot of savings. And in terms of the impact that this would have on consumers, you know, we have seen over the last 3 years, both anecdotally hearing from consumers who are buying plans in the individual market, and also from the data that's out there from the federal government, from the Department of Health and Human Services, that consumers across the board have seen the cost of their premiums increase. They've seen their deductibles increase as well. So one of the things that Republicans are really hoping is that by repealing the Affordable Care Act and putting in place some sort of a replacement, that after all of these mandates are repealed, would ideally lower the cost of health insurance, lower the deductibles for consumers, but also make sure that consumers had more choice and competition in the options that they can choose from for their insurers.
Melissa, we're coming up on the hard break, the end of the show, but how can our listeners read your works and support the Heritage Foundation? Please give us a website.
So you can read my work and that of my colleagues at dailysignal.com.
Well, thank you once again for coming on the Concerted Commandos radio show. Look forward to having you back.
Thank you.
God bless, too. Well, Sharon, it's been a great privilege once again to work with you on a Friday here at the Concerted Commandos radio show. We just want to thank our guest, Bill Cummings from Pathfinder Insurance Education, and Congressman John Lebithier, and I probably didn't pronounce that right, but we always love listening what he has to say. And, of course, now Melissa Quinn from the Heritage Foundation. And, Sharon, any closing thoughts, please?
Well, I just am so happy to have been on your show with you, this show on our fabulous Friday, JD, and, of course, with our own John Forsyth, Silent John Forsyth. We couldn't do this show without him. This has been a good show, and I think we've pretty thoroughly covered what's going on in D.C. these days as far as what we can look forward to in the next week or so. And I just look forward to being on the radio again with you, JD.
Well, it's always great. And I just want to tell our listeners, keep praying for baby Ben. I mean, Sharon took her time off to be with her precious grandchild there in Stanford, in California. So we do continue to pray and thank God for all of his blessings. But for now, we've got to run. Yeah, for now, we got to run. We got to go. As Rick says, we'll see you tomorrow on the radio.